Welcome to Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration. In this edition I'm going to be talking to Jack Trigger, a professional sailor, a type 1 diabetic, and he's about to leave for a round the world solo journey on his yacht. So 74 days, I think you said, is the expected length of the trip, and the boat itself is a high-tech animal.
Yeah.
Can you take us through, the top features of the boat from a technology point of view?
Yeah, so 74 days is the record. Yeah, so
presumably that's your target.
It's got to be something. It's got to be something, right? Yeah, and to do those kind of times around the world, you've got to be on a high-tech boat because you're going fast. So what are the main features? Just the power that you can generate, and that's a function of all these different systems that we have to make power. A really deep keel that can swing side to side, that can hydrofoil.
So the keel goes backwards and forwards and back.
Just side to side.
So just side to side. And how does that work? Do you have a lever or something, or is it?
It's
on a ram.
It's on a hydraulic ram. So yeah. There are two things that aren't manually powered in the boat. One is the autopilot and the other is the canted keel.
Okay.
So it's a hydraulic ram powered by a pump off the generator.
So all the rest, the tiller or what the...
All the sails, sails going up, sails coming down.
So you're pulling the ropes and trimming the sails and all that. So what are the sails? Are they Kevlar sails or modern
generally carbon?
Wing type? Carbon sails.
Generally carbon. They're not wings. So we see wings in the America's Cup. They'll come in the future. At the moment, probably not durable enough to sail around the world. If you break a wing, also difficult to reduce the size of a wing. So to have the range,
too rigid.
Too rigid, exactly.
Yeah.
So the range that we need to sail around the world of conditions. Like I said, from sailing through the doldrums across the equator, there's no wind to a big southern ocean depression. You need to be able to change the size of your sails and to put them up and down.
Do you have a Spinnaker? Is that a silly question?
No, not at all. Yes. We're moving away from Spinnakers.
Okay.
Because the boats are getting faster, with the hydrofoils, more power, less drag. The faster we go, we talk about apparent wind. So we're always sailing on the wind that we feel on the boat.
Yeah.
It's like when you're riding
Which is why you can go faster than the actual wind speed.
Yeah. It takes a bit of getting your head around.
Yeah.
The faster you go on the bicycle, the more wind you feel in your face.
Yes.
At the same time, if you're riding on your bicycle, if you're stopped and the wind's coming from the side, and you start moving forwards, then the wind that you feel, the faster you go, the wind that you feel comes further and further forward.
Yes.
So that's apparent wind.
Apparent wind, yeah.
So the faster we go on the boats, the closer the wind is to coming from in front of us. We need flatter sails.
Yeah.
So we can generate more power because we've got more apparent wind, go faster.
Yeah.
But the sails are going to be flatter. So Spinnakers turn into Jenikers.
Okay.
We still carry, most of the teams still carry Spinnakers.
Jenikers are a more angular version of a Spinnaker, whereas Spinnaker just sort of pulls you along.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And again, a high technology composite sails, they're stiff, they're designed and they're actually built on 3D molds.
Right.
So it's built to a certain flying shape in composite, generally carbon, aramid, Kevlar. And then when it goes up, it's flexible, but it sits in that shape and it's really stiff.
Yeah.
Because every time
it'll spill if you wanted to. It'll spill a little bit of air out of it.
It can do. You don't want it to do that
Right.
on its own accord. So you don't. The more the sail stretches, you're just losing power out of the wind.
Yeah.
So that's where you are actively trimming it, changing the shape of it, so you can make it flatter in a certain section. So if you start depowering the sail and you start what we call twist, you start twisting off the top of the sail, which is effectively spilling wind out the top of the sail.
Well, that was clearly my knowledge of windsurfing in the 1980s doesn't apply so much anymore. That the sails were designed to spill if you need them. You mentioned the hydrofoils. Tell us more about the hydrofoils. There's 2 or 3 of them.
So on these boats we have 2 hydrofoils, one on each side of the boat. So you're using one at a time, effectively.
Are they adjacent to each other? Are they sort of opposite each other, I should say?
Yeah, opposite. So they extend.
So why isn't it doing this the whole time?
Well, yeah.
In the middle of the boat.
Mm.
How do you stop it doing that?
Yeah, that's the issue. So generally you'll design it with a bias towards lifting the front of the boat up.
Okay.
For a bit more stability.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and there'll be a point in the future where they adapt the rule to allow us to put lifting surfaces somewhere else on the boat, so we can fly stably.
If you get overpowered, is there a risk that the nose goes under?
Yeah.
And what happens then?
Big deceleration. Load the boat up. Things probably break.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully not the sailor.
Hopefully not the sailor.
Hopefully not the sailor.
Hopefully not anything. Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Best avoided, full stop.
Indeed. And the autopilot, so you mentioned there's two non-manual tools. One is the cantilever on the keel, and the other one is the autopilot. What does the autopilot do?
So the autopilot is controlling the rudders, the back of the boat, so 2 rudders. Again, generally we're using 1 rudder at a time because the boat's so wide. When it leans over,
the other one's out of the water.
Exactly. Yeah. So if there was 1 rudder in the middle, it wouldn't be doing much. So 2 rudders, and that effectively steers the boat. So it's about steering the boat in a straight line, so finding the fastest course in a straight line through the waves. It's a bit of a misconception because the boat's generally steered by the sails because it's a balancing act. So if the boat's not balanced, it'll be very difficult to steer it at all. So the boat's got to be perfectly balanced first. So sails, hydrofoils, weight distribution. So that's what you're doing in sail. Once you've got that done, then the rudder's kind of just keeping it on track. But that said, there's a big performance impact because if the rudder's moving around a lot, it's creating a lot of drag. And equally, how it tackles the waves.
Drag is in sort of turbulence through the water. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If there's an angle of attack on the rudder, then it's like on a boat moving at speed, put your hand in the water, you can feel that drag.
Yeah.
So ideally, you want the rudder to be neutral as much as possible.
Sure.
And the other one is kind of what you just described, the whole burying the nose thing. So if the autopilot decides to steer the boat down the wave, that's good. You're going to accelerate down the wave.
Right.
But if it doesn't correct itself before it hits the back of the next wave, so you're probably going faster than the waves, then you'll bury the boat into the back of the next wave.
Not good.
Not good, not fast. So yeah, performance element and a safety element to the autopilot.
Yeah.
Very important. A lot of development to be done in trying to make them faster.
No doubt. What's your favourite piece of equipment? These are amazing machines. They've come a long way. What's your favourite piece of equipment?
Yeah, the hydrofoils have just absolutely changed the game.
Yeah.
They're the big thing that you couldn't have imagined the leap. 10 years ago we first saw them in the America's Cup, and probably a couple of years before that I didn't think it was possible in the America's Cup, but even when that was happening, I didn't think it was possible to take a round the world boat, put hydrofoils on it, and it to actually work.
So, and now you're going 40 miles an hour or 40 knots?
Yeah, 40 top speeds in the high 30s on these boats.
High 30 knots.
High 30 knots.
So add 10% for miles an hour, and
exactly.
then add 60% for kilometres an hour. So 40 with is equivalent to sort of 65 kilometres an hour. Right?
Yeah, it's fast, and you'll start to see averages in the low 30s maybe on a good day, but certainly averages well in the 20s, which in waves in the middle of an ocean on your own is pretty fast.
Amazing. Well, so much amazing equipment, and we haven't yet talked about your diabetes, but that's for another video. Keep watching for that. Thanks, Jeff.